Hello, friends. We're back again. It's Fightful.com. I am Natural Pearl, and it's time for your TNA Hard to Kill post show. It is January 13th, 2024. I have a plethora of people here with me, and of course, our show sponsored by Blue Chew. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. We've got Steven Jensen here, host of the Weekender podcast here on FightfulSelect.com, and the Spotlight every Thursday morning on the main channel. Steven Jensen, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing fantastic. Good to see everybody here tonight, and it's good to finally say TNA is officially back.
Absolutely. Cresta Starr is here. She, of course, joins me every Thursday to talk about what is now TNA Impact instead of just Impact Wrestling on Access or whatever place you watch it on. But Cresta Starr is here. We're going to talk about the show. How you doing, Cresta?
I'm quite excited. I was not around for the original TNA pop, but this crowd tonight, hot, amazing. This was a really good show. Literally, not to sound cheesy, total nonstop action. I'll be that guy. Oh, yeah.
And, of course, Sean Ross Sapp is here, watching everything and anything you can get your hands on a night that has plenty of wrestling going on. Hello, Sean. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Steven, with TNA being back, I have no option but to lift the Bill and Doug ban on Fightful. Like, it's only fair in the spirit of TNA. Bill and Doug hereby unbanned, but we got a lot of backstage news for this show. Fightful Select had not only a scoops thread, but we had a bunch of contract news throughout this week as well. Naturally, a lot of people asking about contracts with any number of wrestlers here. Working to find out more specifically on the Ashley by Elegance, aka Dana Brooke, and the Dolph Ziggler, aka Nick Nemeth situations, but there are some I do have some details on. We had reported, I think it was yesterday, that multiple contracts would eventually be revealed. Xia Brookside is one of those. We had posted on Fightful Select. She actually had a contract offer from TNA back in November. So this wasn't a situation where she just got signed because of the performance, even though I'm told they're very happy with the performance and that associated with that match. But the contract is 3 years in length, so they are going to have her at least until probably the end of 2026, it looks like, because I would imagine that deal got signed sometime late in 2023 or something like that. But this was her first date on that deal. Eric Young, as best I know, is still working on a handshake deal, as is AJ Francis. I was told that as of right now, he doesn't necessarily want to sign anywhere, but he is excited to work TNA. He is figured into some of the creative plans over the next few months as well. So that will be something to keep an eye on. MK Ultra, they lost the Knockouts tag team titles. Interesting note on that. That is effectively the longest Knockouts tag team title reign ever, if you exclude Eric Young and ODB, who just didn't have the titles after like 2 or 3 months. Then they deactivated them a year later. So some history there. Hammerstone, as of earlier this week, had not signed a TNA contract. I do know that there are some people within AEW that have sort of pushed for him a little bit. You can probably guess who they are. Guess who might be on Hammerstone's side in TNA. And it's hard to believe that tonight's performance will do anything but help him in the eyes of anybody based on what we saw tonight. Just an incredible performance that he had. But they had at least discussed the possibility of a contract. Mustafa Ali, Joel, this is something you had mentioned to me personally as well. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, maybe it's him, maybe it's him. I mean, I was having a conversation with the guy during the show, so I don't think that didn't think it was going to be him. And as you mentioned, he was working the Texas show, but the elephant in the room, Trinity. I don't know if she's finishing up at these tapings or the next set, but I can tell you that the Fightful Select report stands there. She is expected to go to WWE. She is factored in creatively. Like, that is a thing that they have been discussing backstage. Her name has been brought up about the Royal Rumble. I can't sit here and say that she's going to be in the Royal Rumble because plans change, pal. But she has been discussed for that. And Joel, as you pointed out, Mercedes and Bailey were at the show taking it in. what kind of, I'm interested to learn, like, was there a big buzz around that in the venue? Could you like sort of feel people's eyes shifting over there as they popped up?
They had no idea. They were tucked away. Yeah, because they were tucked away behind the French commentary. And the way that the Palms Theater is, it's a traditional theater. You didn't even know, unless you watched the show, that Tom Hannafin and Matt Raywalt were in the second story in their own little box. And next to them was the French commentary. And they weren't really put a focus on, except for those, 20 seconds they got. So yeah, Mercedes and Bailey were just kind of hanging out back there, hoods up, glasses on, bottle of Palms water, just kind of watching Trinity and Jordynne Grace do their thing.
I got messages from people in WWE Creative, people that worked with Dana in NXT, people that worked with Dana in WWE, who is now Ashley by Elegance. They're very excited for her to do this, because there were some people in wrestling that were like, okay, well, maybe she'll pursue other interests. But she worked really, really hard to get better. And it's almost like a Chris Masters situation, is how one writer explained it to me, where she worked really, really hard to get better and didn't really get the opportunity to show that she had worked really, really hard to get better. Sort of like Chris Masters, who did that same thing and then ended up getting released. So that's one that I'm particularly interested in how that plays out. Obviously, Nick Nemeth is expected to be featured near the top of the card as things stand. Trent Seven was supposed to be at the show. They mentioned on the air he couldn't make it due to travel issues. He was not the only one. Like, I mean, across wrestling. Like, this weekend, wrestling got ravaged pretty hard. And they thought it was going to be a lot worse for some of these shows. GCW thought they were going to end up missing like 10 wrestlers this weekend. They only missed 3. And I thought that they delivered on some of their surprises, like Colt Cabana coming in as well. But there was also another interesting note. The TNA AAA thing. It was very weird how they just like painted that out as a new agreement. I guess because Impact and AAA had an agreement, but it was kind of funny to me. Like the surprises throughout the first half of this show were Rhino, who was on the roster, Jake Something, who was on the roster, the Decay, who are on the roster, and a TNA AAA relationship that already existed. And I was like, if they don't have anything else, but I think that the Ashley by Elegance and the Nick Nemeth things were ample.
On top of that, just to add to the play-out deal, I think that was, like you said, it was a TNA, just kind of a rebranding. So we're re-upping our partnership. And also it was their excuse to bring out their Mega Campeon, right? To bring out Vikingo and get that match kind of moving. So that's the way I saw it. And I think most people in the building were just kind of like, oh, this is neat. Because a lot of people, I don't know how many people were really like TNA fans as much as they were wrestling fans in the area who were there for a show. So that was part of the deal too.
Yeah, I'm excited about this run. I can tell you guys, I'll share a couple of my thoughts about how it appeared, at least on the air. The only negatives I had, I wish they would have lit the crowd better. Like, that's something I complained about in AEW as well. Like, there's people there. Show us that people are there. The venue looked incredible on camera. Looked really great. Looked really different. I wish AEW would run venues like this for Collision. Like, I wish Collision would become like you go to a place like this, or you go to like the Hammerstone ballroom or something like that. The ring was mic'd way too loud at the start of the show, like very, very loud. We could hear a little bit of everything, but the venue just looked so good. I liked the gray ring mat. I loved the yellow ring ropes. I liked all the logos all over the mat. Like I'm good with a busy mat. Like, I think it's pretty cool, but overall, I thought it was a pretty solid show, and a great way to end the show with a known commodity in pro wrestling, a former world champion that everybody knows can be very, very good, showing the TNA logo. I thought that was a very, very smart thing for TNA to do.
And it was, and you know what? For those who were looking for a surprise, this was a surprise. And this is someone who has main event experience, who has been around wrestling for a long time, and Nick Nemeth. We'll talk about it more and more, but in a situation like this where you're teasing a big signing, you're not going to please everybody. But they definitely went out of their way to TNA to find as many different avenues for entertainment as they could tonight. So maybe there was something for everyone.
Yeah,
the reception was pretty positive that I saw. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, at the end of the show, they were hyped. I'm sure you can speak to that, Joel, but like being there live, but like that ended on such a positive note. Like Sean was about to say, like it's like they were out their loudest at the end of that show. So like, I mean, what could you really ask for like a big surprise? Everyone seemed pretty happy that was there.
Yep, absolutely. They had the right people plugging it too. They had the right people getting excited and ready for tomorrow and planning for tomorrow's show. So they did a good job.
And also, I mean, the fact that the online reception was so positive was one of those where I'm like, okay, because when the Ashley by Elegance thing happened, it's, a lot of people were like, oh, that's the big signing, blah, blah, blah. But honestly, I would say that 90 to 95% of what I saw about Nick Nemeth was very positive. Like, people understand and seem to be very realistic about what a guy like this can do. And if you want to bring back the TNA logo, you want to bring back the TNA branding, well, I mean, that was my stuff to watch in 2005 to 2009. I was so like disenfranchised with WWE at that point. Once the Cena and Batista builds had culminated, happened, and then I saw it and I was like, well, they don't really have much follow-up for this, do they? I was like, okay, well, what's next? And the answer was not much. Not much was next after that. So I turned to TNA a lot more. And what kept me in TNA? Well, it certainly wasn't Jeff Jarrett's world title runs. It was the X division, and it was people like AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels. And Nick Nemeth is a guy that we know can still go at that level. He can absolutely still go. And the dude is answering every GTA payphone that he can possibly find right now for these side missions. He's like New Japan, GCW, TNA. He's going to start Wrestling Society X back up pretty soon. Like, I just love that he's like, let me do it elsewhere. I had an AEW name when I reached out about him going to TNA, and they said, I wish he would have done this in 2016 because he might have out-Cody'd Cody in that. And I bet if he could, he probably would, looking back now. But also, if you remember, there was a period, I want to say 2018, when he was very keen on leaving the company. And I can't remember when it was that he resigned, but they were basically like, we need you to stay. Like, we really, really need you to stay. And he did. And he made a lot of money. But I think right now what we're about to see is the art. And that comes from a guy who's made an awful lot of art in the past. But I think that he's about to come out here and prove some points. I think he's about to come out here and show people exactly what he can be. And I'm very excited for that. And there's still chips to fall. There are other free agents. Mustafa Ali is still out there. I would like to see Shelton Benjamin try to prove some points as well. I think it's going to be really good. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised by Dana Brooke, Ashley by Elegance. But as somebody points out, Trinity was saying her goodbyes after the show. There we go.
I don't want that to be true. So bad. So bad. So bad.
RifleSelect.com. Best $5 in the business. Sock a dinger, get your ringer, and get your money. There you go.
That's fair.
Hey, by the way,
it hasn't landed yet, but it'll land in late January.
Okay, let it land with that thumbs up on the video, and also subscribe to us here at youtube.com/Fightful. Hey, we also take your super chats. Any amount, get your question statement read on the air. Before Sean gets out of here, I'm going to get this one from Marquise Films. What's up with the picture of Triple H being backstage? Do you want to take this, or shall I?
Have at it, Joel. I'm excited to see, because listen, my goal for 2024 moving forward, I'm going to respond to less dipshittery online. Now, listen, there's going to be a certain couple episodes of AEW in the near future. I'm going to be posting some meme replies on that. But other than that, the shithousery is going to stop. Go ahead, Joel.
So very simply, no, that was not Triple H. Someone had posted on Twitter a very blurry photo of a bald individual standing with a shirt and tie on, but it was extremely blurry. That person, I'm about 98, 99% sure, and that's a high percentage, folks. That's Ross Foreman. Who is Ross Foreman? On TV, you know him as Dr. Ross. For those of you who work in the media side of things, he is the director of PR for TNA Wrestling. So
he was
that's
the
probably who you
NWO
saw.
writer. He was the NWO
He
writer in
was.
WCW magazine in the 1990s. That's how
That's
I
right.
knew Ross Foreman. He
Yep.
was an NWO writer.
Ross has been around the business for 30 years, if not longer. And yeah, that was almost positive who you saw, because I saw him tonight and said hello, and that's what he was wearing. And when I saw that photo, I said, pretty sure that's Dr. Ross. So there's your answer to the question.
That's pretty hilarious. I didn't know it was him.
Listen to the super chatter. Sean's not calling you a dipshit. He's calling people who are doing stuff like this just for shits and giggles. They can be a dipshit. You're okay.
Yeah, I was absolutely not calling anybody that sent us a super chat a dipshit. I definitely was not. So yeah, that'd be a new one. But guys, I want to thank you all so much for having me. Please send super chats, humper chats to these wonderful people. They're going to do a great job reviewing this show. I am going to continue in the future on these TNA post shows and the like. Whenever there's big news to be revealed, I will appear at the top of these shows and I'll answer your super chats, humper chats. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Sean.
Good to see you, Sean.
Thank you, Sean. Say his name and
He goes home.
away.
Speaking of surprises, he showed up tonight. We'll get to Joe Henry in a minute. Hi, friends. It's good to see you. I'm going to apologize right off the bat if my internet gets spotty here and there, because I'm using a hotspot and I'm trying my best. So if I'm in and out, I apologize, but we'll make it good. Let's get to it. Countdown. How much did y'all see? Because we had an hour on TNA Plus, and I understand other outlets didn't have a full hour. Cresta, what happened?
I got the whole thing. I was able to use internet stitch witchery to find it. So I have the whole hour, but there were other outlets only did 30 minutes, if you could find it at all, which is weird.
All right.
Yeah,
I think they were really trying to
confusing.
push people to TNA Plus.
Yeah, if they were definitely trying to push everyone to TNA Plus for the pre-show, because Triller, formerly Fight Plus, that or Fight, now Triller, they had like a completely different like road to the pay-per-view thing that they were playing for the half hour beforehand. So like that's where I thought the pre-show was going to be airing. So I tuned into Triller, but I found out as I was watching the show that it was all on TNA Plus, and then also that you can't use TNA Plus for the pay-per-view. You have to do that through Triller also. So it is a little confusing, to be completely honest. It'd be nice if it was all just like one, just like TNA Plus, you could just get it all, like, or something like that. That'd be, or if TNA could be a part of it.
You have to pay more.
Oh,
you can. You just have to pay more. There's an upper tier.
Oh, okay. So I'm familiar with the lower tier in that case.
Same.
So I had
with the lower tier.
I had to do the lower tier and then pay-per-view. Anyways, that doesn't matter. Regardless, that it is a little confusing. So it would be kind of nice, I guess, if it was a little bit more accessible in that regard. But that said, yes, I was able to watch the first hour before the pay-per-view as well.
Well, let's hop right into it.
We're
Opening
professionals,
match.
Joel.
I mean, you are. That's why I asked. I wanted to triple check because there was some confusion amongst us all before we went on the air. So here we are. The fight of two former champions to open up the countdown. Steve Maclin versus Rich Swann. This was a good match. I really, really enjoyed it personally. I got to put over Steve Maclin's gear. I will put over nothing else on Steve Maclin for tonight. I will pass it over to Cresta Starr to start this up with the match.
That's crazy. You always trying to throw me underneath the bus. Anywho.
It ain't you. It's okay. He knows who's after him.
Well, I will say nothing but high praise for Steve Maclin tonight. From the word go, from the bell, he was relentless. This was a Steve Maclin showcase, and Rich Swann was the test dummy for this match. Rich Swann was selling like he had to hit a quota. It was great. I have just two notes because, honestly, I will say that my biggest complaint of Hard to Kill was that there was too much to watch. And that's what a complaint to have. What a complaint to have. So I love the TNA chants from the moment this match started, and also getting dumped into a falling knee, but only for a 2. Like, literally, people were getting tossed around tonight. That's the theme of tonight, tossing people around. And it started with this match, and Rich Swann got tossed around. Steven Jensen, what did you think of this match?
I liked it. This is a good opener. And I really liked, because I know Joel wouldn't be able to hear this on commentary throughout the night as well. So I can kind of fill you in a little bit there too on some of that stuff. So like, they did a really good job of hyping up like the first, like this, whoever wins this match is historic because it's the first win in TNA. So like they made it feel like, even though it was like the pre-show, it was still the first match, and it was like it was a historic thing. And I mean, Steve Maclin is, I like both guys. I've always liked Rich Swann as well, but Steve Maclin, I think, is just super valuable to the Impact, the TNA brand. I have just now, after all these years, conditioned myself to call it Impact. I've called it TNA incorrectly for so long, and I finally started getting it right, and now I got to go back. But anyway, I think Macklin's going to be super valuable for TNA going forward. And I love the finish, the way he kind of seamlessly gets Swann up onto the Tree of Woe on the top rope, hits the ropes, hits the spear, and then hits the what's he call it? His version of the
KIA.
The KIA. I blanked on both names of the finishers. I was gonna call it what Ambrose calls it, what Moxley calls it. Anyways, doesn't matter. Really, really good finish. I like Maclin a lot. I like that he got the first historic win back in TNA.
I'm going to put the bit aside, and I am going to say some nice things about Steve Maclin and Rich Swann. The match really was good. It was a hot opener. The crowd was into it. The people there loved what they were seeing. They're two former world champions. You cannot take that away from either of them. And you know what? Steve Maclin is the right guy to win that match. And then the promo he cut later in the night where he was saying, everything that Steven Jensen said about commentary, he then Maclin repeats later on. He's the guy. He got the first win on the first TNA show. That means something. And for that, I got to say, Maclin is in for a big 2024, and I think that is worth noting. Rich Swann, he's always been good. I'm wondering what they do next with Rich Swann, but tonight it really was all about Maclin and setting him up for continued success, and I think that is good. I'm looking forward to a 2024 where Steve Maclin puts more just more on his moveset under his vest. And that's not saying he's boring. And I know he himself have joked about me saying he's boring. No, I hope that he just does a little bit more here and there in his matches so that I'm not just looking for caught in the crosshairs and then the KIA and that's it. I want a little bit more to the setup. So that's where I'm at with Steve Maclin. So let's move on unless anyone has anything else to add to that whole shebang.
No, I'll just add, the only thing that I'll add is I'll agree with that, but also add that I think Maclin, the way he's able to get around not adding a whole lot of that is because you just see the dude and he's very credible. You know what I mean? He just looks like he can kick people's asses. And so that's very helpful. But I'm with you, Joel. If you added a little bit more, get him to that next level, he's been a main event player for Impact previously, and he should be a main event player for TNA going forward for sure.
Exactly. Let's move along. AJ Francis comes out. DJ Who Kid introduces him. They start to show the Dala video. And out comes, say his name, and he appears. Joe Hendry makes his return to TNA, and he has a very wonderful song that I don't need to set up any more than you can just go to the TNA website and find it. It looks like AJ Francis and Joe Hendry are going to have some match time in the future. Cresta Starr, you love Joe Hendry. What do you think of this whole setup with AJ Francis?
I don't want to hop on the dog pile of AJ Francis, boo, this guy stinks. I'm not that guy. I will talk about what I liked in this segment, and I liked when Joe Hendry came out. I liked when DJ Who Kid was there, and then it kind of got weird. Imagine having to pay for TNA time. I could not be me. I do think it was the right call, making him a heel. That was a great call instead of trying to force him to be a babyface. When people, I will give peace a chance. Other wrestling fans will not. So that's smart. Him doing a music video, that might have been legit. There's a lot of wrestling rappers right now. Joe Hendry interrupting that music video, fantastic. I did a dive and I just fell. That's horrible. That's horrible. It's funny. It's horrible. It's completely Joe Hendry. And I'm so glad Joe Hendry's back. When he called him the best Cheez-It champ and there was actually a Cheez-It championship, I lost it. I lost it, bro. Like, you can't be serious. I mean, AJ Francis beat him up afterwards, so I guess he got his comeuppance. But much like when he was fighting Matt Cardona, you got cooked before the match even started. I went to do a dive and I just fell.
Yeah, it was really funny. Like I was legitimately laughing at the whole Cheez-It music video. Like that was clever. And like the way that they shot it, like they had that really quick cutscene where they threw like a dummy over the top rope.
It was
like,
so bad that it was good.
Yeah. It was hilarious.
There's one thing.
And I like AJ, by the way. I like AJ Francis. Like, so it's like I'm hoping that he succeeds outside the WWE. So like, yeah. I hope that this is good for both guys. But I thought it was really funny, but this is a good segment.
You can't go against Joe Hendry in a music battle because he's going to be peak disrespectful in song. He is a bard with max points in speech.
There's something about like Cresta, you were saying, AJ Francis coming in and being a heel right off the bat, just ripping on everyone. Aces. I like that. I want more of that, and I look forward to seeing that play out a little bit. He's not signed to TNA, but he's going to do a couple of shows. And you know what? Joe Hendry is a great guy to work against in the ring for multiple reasons, including what you saw tonight with that music video. It's going to be a fun little match.
Oh yeah.
Let's move on. So we got the system. We're going to talk about the system throughout the night because now Myers, Eddie Edwards, Lish, and Moose, and we brought back Angelo Parker. D'Angelo. What did I just say? D'Angelo Parker.
Angelo Parker's in another
D'Angelo Williams.
Joel.
Yeah, D'Angelo Williams. Yes, I'm going to my notes and I forget they weren't open in time. Anyway, D'Angelo Williams is back in TNA. That's a pretty big deal. The system. This is a brand new thing. We had a tag match in the Countdown show with Myers and Edwards taking on Frankie Kazarian and Eric Young. This was the second that they announced that they are the system and they have a whole new gimmick. I was like, they're winning. They have to win. Jensen, you saw the match. You're very familiar with all four men. Not in the system, but the four men in the tag match. Let's talk about that. What do you think of the tag match between the system and Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian?
So, it was solid. It was a solid match, but it was cool that it was cool for a few reasons. Like they mentioned on commentary, but I think they said something like Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian had teamed together in the original TNA, 20 years ago, something like that. Like they weren't a regular tag team, but like just the fact that they ever had, and they were both TNA originals, and Eric Young being such a big part of that video package and this whole rebrand of TNA and everything. So it was, and also. Nothing against Eddie Edwards, but it's kind of nice that he isn't in the main event of the show. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people have Eddie Edwards fatigue that watch TNA, and he still was able to be on the show, have a good match. I like Myers a lot. I'm a big Brian Myers fan. In a lot of ways, I love what they do with their action figure line and their podcast and all that stuff as well. I really respect those guys a lot. So it's one of those things where it was just cool that all four of these guys got onto the show, but it didn't have to be a main event thing. And it was a solid match, and I like the finish. I like how they do the roster cut right into the Boston Knee Party. I think it's it looks good. So I couldn't really ask for anything more. And it's good that they all got on the show, like I said. So
when they started this tag team at Final Resolution between Myers and Edwards, I was skeptical too. I'm glad that these two are working in a tag team because otherwise they were kind of listless. Cresta, Starr, what do you think of the tag match?
I am actually here for the system. I keep wanting to say shock to the system, but that's a different group. I think this is a good direction for these guys that I think are naturally heelish backbones of the Impact TNA ecosystem. The match itself was good. It was a great showcase to me of peak TNA. You don't get no more TNA than Eric Young and Frankie Kazarian, who Eric Young, by the way, was getting beat the heck up in the beginning of that match. And they did a really good job. Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards did a really good job of keeping Eric Young separated. And Eric Young played a great, I'm in peril, I'm getting beat up. And Eric Young, I've seen him die, so nothing can really happen to this man in my eyes. This match was really good. I think this was a great idea, not a great idea, but a great way to say, if you like old TNA, this is us now, get into it.
Cresta, are you trying to say that Eric Young is hard to kill?
I mean, PCO don't die, and neither does he.
PCO just hates his body. We're going to get to that in a minute. Speaking of people who hate their body, Digital Media Championship on the line. The champion, Tommy Dreamer, drops it to Crazy Steve in a forking good match. Cresta Starr, I'm going to let you have the floor because I want to remind everyone, this is my favorite thing that everyone, just no one really remembers this. When we were covering the Impact Wrestling post-show, the week when Christian Cage said, go F yourself to Adam Copeland on AEW Dynamite was the same week when Impact aired a match between Crazy Steve and Tommy Dreamer that ended with Crazy Steve putting a fork in Tommy Dreamer's back, to which I called the episode, Go Fork Yourself. They really played that up tonight, and God bless. We have a new digital media champion. His name is Crazy Steve. I love the presentation they have with him. He looked like a star tonight. Cresta, what do you think of the match, and how do you feel about new champ Crazy Steve?
In our prediction show, I said Crazy Steve is going to win. Why? Because he's got 2 Z's in his name. Come on now. I miss Cleo. I know what was up. The fact that the crowd was also chanting fork him up. I was died. I will say Crazy Steve's presentation here, he looked real crazy. He looked deranged. This is, I like this. This is just enough where it's not bloody, because y'all know I'm soft. I can get healy, but it doesn't got no blood. But it was just enough. The bag of forks popped me. I'm not gonna lie. We pulled out one fork. He pulled the other fork. Like, this mother lover has forks in that bag, doesn't he? He's got a bunch of forks. Also, I want to give a big shout out to commentary to really try to put over Tommy Dreamer. It's about he has to dig in his ECW bag, why he was an innovator of violence. And I'm like, that's not gonna happen here. He already had a fork literally stabbed in his back, bro. Like, I don't know. I mean, I'm happy because nothing against Tommy Dreamer. I just think the Digital Media Championship would look great on Crazy Steve and it'll do wonders for him. And with the K being back later on in the night, I'm so happy. I'm sorry that we had to see elder abuse, but it's Vegas. No one's gonna remember.
Yeah,
Steven Jensen, a forking good time.
Yes. I was gonna say, like, if for no other reason, I'm happy for Crazy Steve. Like, the guy's been grinding for a long time. Like, he's been around like a while, and not just like in general, but in like TNA/Impact. Like, it's the longevity is something to be said for. And isn't he like blind or something? Like, which is even more impressive. Like,
he's legally blind.
Yeah, like that's not enough people probably. Nothing that you need to discuss that, but I'm just saying, like, that's just like really impressive to me that, like, you know. So anyway, yeah, I thought this is a good match. Now, one thing I'm curious about, this is a digital media championship. I want to see what Crazy Steve does on social media now with this thing. Like that's honestly what I'm most interested in now, is like, do something with this title and go viral with this thing, and let's see what happens.
I don't think it's gonna happen. I think we had a better chance of seeing Johnny Swinger do GeoCities, and that'll forever be my joke. I don't care. I like Crazy Steve, house down. But what did Tommy Dreamer do that was on the digital media? Those rules only apply to some people, and I don't think these two are those people.
Well, you know, the digital media side was Tommy on Busted Open talking about being a part of, I got nothing. I'm sorry.
You tried, and that was important. We like a positive wrestling person named Joe Pearl.
Yes, well, I tried. Let's get to the main card. We open up with the Knockouts Ultimate X match. Gisele Shaw gets the big red X. Cresta Starr, I told you so. We'll do that again later on tonight.
That you did. Anyway. That you did. I literally have a note that says Joe Pearl dead said this.
Now later on in the night, something that I also said got a little bit messed up, and it's not going to happen that way. But Gisele Shaw does secure the red X. She is next in line for a Knockouts World Championship opportunity. And something that I spoke to Jody Thread about in the Weeds this past week was that the match for Ultimate X was 3 TNA stalwarts versus 3 new TNA stars. And the match began exactly that way when you had Zai Brookside, Dani Luna, and Jody Thread go after Gisele Shaw, Alisha Edwards, and Tasha Steelz, who won the original Ultimate X. This was a good start. I was really happy with this match. I thought all 6 women worked their butts off. And Zai Brookside, of course, we announced on got more details on FightfulSelect.com that she has signed a contract. We got those details from Sean earlier tonight. Steven Jensen, you saw the match. All 6 women kicked ass. What do you think of this whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, they really went for it. I'll give a lot of credit. Like Gisele, like that last spear, like didn't come across great, but she made contact. Like that's really what mattered most. Because I saw some people on social media that were kind of dogging her for that. I was like, that wasn't as bad as what people were trying to make it come off. Like I think they tried super hard in this one. This was the opening match of a massive pay-per-view. The entire wrestling world was watching this. And I loved the entrances, like how the whole roster was out there and it just went right into Tasha Steelz coming out. And like, it just felt like it was a really big deal that like all this was happening. So I thought the match was really good. I mean, they got a ton of women, a ton of talent in their knockouts division, like always. I mean, that's always going to be like a really bright point of Impact / TNA. Like as long as they keep focusing on that. And Gisele winning is big too, because I mean, this is setting up Gisele and who we'll talk about later on. So I want y'all's thoughts on the match as well. But there was some really cool stuff here, and like I said, I give them a lot of respect for going for it. These are difficult types of matches for anybody to do, but like with the height and the ropes and all the like, you're trying to do something impressive out there. You're really going out there, and like the expectations of Ultimate X matches. So I think they went out there and did it. I mean, 12 minutes. They went out there and worked hard. So.
Cresta, Starr, what do you think of this match?
I will always give respect, and it's not lost on me that TNA opened up the show with the women's match, an Ultimate X women's match. And I think one thing that is synonymous with TNA and Impact is your X division, Ultimate X anything, not to be confused with that platform formerly known as Twitter. It is not lost on me that once again, you guys are trusting the women to open up your show, put on a banger, and keep people interested in the first 5 minutes. This Ultimate X match was amazing. Literally, Joel, I said Joel was right. Shaw smashes Steelz in the face with the X for the win for Shaw. And honestly, I'm not mad at that. Seeing her come in and seeing how far she's come, she absolutely deserves a title shot. I would have loved to see Shaw versus Trinity again, have it run it back, but that's not how it played out. And that's okay. This match was amazing. Tasha Steelz looked amazing in this. Signing Dani Luna, Zaya Brookside. This is my first time seeing her. That little girl can wrestle. Holy hell. That's a grown woman, but that little girl can wrestle because in comparison to everyone else, and Tasha Steelz is in this match, she looked tiny. Like, this match was good. This match was good. TNA started off strong and hot. And again, it's not lost on me that you guys are starting with an Ultimate X women's match where everybody else are like, you guys put on 3-4 matches tonight? Who could have thought of such a thing?
Now, because if nothing else, we are people who love to give historical context, or at least give people some homework. Cresta, Starr, search Robbie Brookside when you have a chance. That would
I'll do it right now.
Zaya's dad. Well, that's Zaya's dad, and Zaya's dad, Robbie, is a very well put together wrestler of his time in the UK. So I'll give you and the audience who maybe haven't seen much of Zaya Brookside's work and maybe want to look more into her background a chance to do that with Robbie Brookside. Match was solid. One last thing I got to say. First of all, like I said, with Steve Macklin being one of the faces of TNA 2024, starting to really feel like Gisele Shaw is one of those people as well. Someone who's worked her way very much up the ladder from the time when Cresta, Starr, and I were saying, don't know if she's got this, to right now where we're saying she absolutely has got this. And how can I put this nicely? The end of that match, the way she landed and the way she just popped up, that evil scowl on her face was so frigging good. I just have to put that over. I thought it was really good stuff.
Can't wait for her to be an evil piece of crap.
Oh, she's going to be the most evil. But also, people are starting to like her, so that's a problem. Before we continue on, yes, we do see a chat. Mustafa Ali did show up at the New Japan show. Not show up, but he sent a video in. He challenged Hiromu Takahashi. So there's something for Chicago, for the Windy City Riot. That'll help sell out a Chicago arena, let me tell you. Let's move along. PCO. Well, literally in this case, PCO and Dirty Dango turned into a 6-man tag because Santino Marella came out after Alpha Bravo got his guy DQ'd. This match was a mess, but it was fun. PCO, Rhino, and Jake Something end up teaming against Alpha Bravo, Dirty Dango, and Oleg Prudius. Match is fine. Match was a mess. Steven Jensen, please make sense of the mess, but also I think we have to praise at least parts of it.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention real quick, like, PCO landed on his head before the second match even started. Like, he got Bravo grabbed him by the leg, and like he still went for the moonsault. Like, and like I couldn't. This dude, and that was before he landed on his head like 3 times during this 6-man match. PCO, I say this every single time we do one of these post-show reviews for Impact or for TNA. Jeez. I'm always like, I feel like this might be the last time we talk about PCO. Like, I always feel like he's going to get hurt every time I watch him wrestle, every single time. But he keeps coming back, and he's been doing it since like the 80s. So I got to give him so much respect for it. But
folks, hold on. We say this every time. Get you a partner, get you a lover, get you a friend who loves you as much as PCO hates his body.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, the last time we were on here, we were talking like his arm came apart and like he was like pushing it back in during the match and stuff. And it was like, yeah, it's just normal. It's just a spot he does. Yeah. His arm just comes apart. His shoulder comes out. Anyways, but I thought it was cool. Like, you know, like Sean said at the top of the show, it was Rhino being a big surprise was kind of like he's already in the company, not a big deal. Jake something though, they did make him feel like he was like he's already in TNA, but he feels like he was presented like a big deal, and he definitely could be like a main player in TNA going forward as like a top singles guy, in my opinion. So I like that these 3 guys teamed up. It's kind of a dream team of like big dudes in TNA. And then Dirty Dango, Bravo, and Oleg were kind of just the perfect people for them to beat up, to be honest. Yeah, this was fine for what it was, and PCO can still hit a moonsault after all these years with his knees not completely exploding and stuff. So good for him, man. It's wild that he's still able to do this.
Cresta Starr, when do we get Oleg Prudius versus PCO? That's my other question.
I'm gonna be real with you. I don't know if I don't know who wants to see that. And maybe Joe Pearl wants to see that, you know. I don't know. I agree with Steven Jensen. This was the perfect trio to beat up because how do you start the match with I hate TNA? We just got here, bro. Like, you hate it so much. Why don't you go back to being a cop? It would be a fashion police. Why don't you go back and do that? No, you can't. Guess where you're at? You're at TNA. So stop disparaging the place you work. I understand. PCO still hitting that Deanimator on the outside, bro. I do like his gear. We do like a 1-arm moment. I like his little halter top. It was really pretty. I don't know, man. I do agree with Santino Marella coming out and saying we're not going to have this end our match. You guys we're not doing that. But I don't know. This was a TNA match. This was a TNA match.
Yeah, they put it together fine. It was a fun, last minute match that just came together. I think when they announced Dango versus PCO, everyone just kind of said, why? And when I was on pre-shows and preview shows, I said, well, PCO was the first guy that they signed. And then not to be outdone, Dango did an interview where Dango said, oh yeah, no, I signed for another year. So I'm here until at least December. So there you go. The match was on the card. Then they brought out everyone else. Like Jensen said, it feels like they're trying to make something, no pun intended, out of Jake something, and this could be another big year for him. Let's hit a super chat real quick from Kai saying, wrestling is great. Y'all are wonderful. I'm ready. I'm already on Fightful Select, so here's another $5 because y'all is pretty dope group. Have a nice night. Thank you, Kai. Appreciate you very much.
Bye.
You can always send in your super chats. Get it in. I mean, I'm not even checking the Humper chats right now because I'm scared of my internet going out, so let's just keep going, okay? Knockouts, tag team championships on the line. The champions, no more. MK Ultra have dropped those titles to the returning Decay. Now, I got to tell you, the crowd was very into the return of Decay, of Havoc and Rosemary. The irony wasn't lost on me that Decay was an Impact-specific group, but hey, they transcend into TNA, and that's cool. I'm hoping, though, that they tell the story of how we got back to Decay, because this can't just be a sudden reset out of the blue. Cresta Starr, we've had a lot of time talking about Decay and about Rosemary and Havoc as a team and as the throwbacks and all that stuff. What do you think of the match? We have new champions, and here we are.
I got to tell you that I have been saying since we had Jessica, because she's sick, I've always wanted to see Havoc versus Masha Slamovich. And getting big, meaty women slapping me. Oh, and I'm not saying that I want this to happen, but I would love to see Masha tried the snow pile. Well, no, that's not what it is.
Snowplow. I got you.
Yes, thank you. Snowplow on Havoc. You could do that to Jessica because Jessica was a new boo goofing. But then it's not Havoc. Havoc don't new boo goof. She don't even know what the word goof means. There's no goofing in I almost called it Hell Zone. In the undead realm. There's no goofing over there. I mean, this match was really good. All things considered, too, all jokes aside, this was a stiff match. This was a really stiff match. I do hope they explain that the Death Dolls really went on the adventure at the advice of, oh my God, the girl that used to be in a team with Rosemary. I forgot her name. Oh my God.
Nevaeh.
Thank you. I hope we get
it's
that.
Heaven backwards, by the way.
I feel like I knew that, but when you told me that just now, my brain was like, it is. This guy is smart.
Did you know that Relic is killer backwards? Sorry, we're doing TNA lore now. Continue, please.
Okay. Nerd. But yeah, so I think this was a great match. I'm looking forward to the segment that explains it. Or in true TNA fashion, they're just going to say, we went in this door, it came out different. It's magic. I don't got to explain shit. So.
Steven Jensen, we know that one thing that didn't happen was Father James Mitchell offering them a suspicious white powder to turn them back into decay. What do you think of this match and the new Knockouts Tag Team Champions?
That's a whole other rabbit hole of a conversation. Would you just let in with that? We won't touch any of that. So it's better. So I'll say this. I like seeing Havoc and Rosemary, that they're Havoc and Rosemary again. Like, I like that better than Courtney Rush and Jessica. Like, I just think just overall Havoc or Decay rather. I just think the fans are going to just always be more into that, and they're going to fit in well for the TNA going forward. I'm a huge MK Ultra fan. Like, I love Masha Slamovich. I think she's like one of the best like wrestlers in the world anywhere. I love her work in GCW especially, and Killer Kelly I'm a big fan of too. So like I really like them as a tag team a lot, and I like how they became a tag team by beating the hell out of each other. Then like dog collar match and stuff, and then like they became a team like that. Like, that's so for them to get like kind of squashed was kind of jarring for me, like a little shocking, no matter who the other team was going to be. But there were some spots in this match, like was it Killer Kelly on top of Rosemary, and then like Rosemary like reversed her by just like being creepy? Like, no, it was kind of
the Killer Kelly was doing her sex walk.
Yeah, but then she reversed it by like almost like she was gonna kiss her almost. She it was kind of
thing that Rosemary does. She does like the Undertaker.
Yeah. I thought that little sequence just like worked because their characters just like worked really well. There's like little things like that because they only had like 6 minutes, and this match came out of nowhere. This wasn't even like advertised. So I was happy when I saw Slamovich coming out to the ring. I was like, awesome, because I think they got cut from the last pay-per-view that we reviewed. Like they were supposed to be, So
they had a match up Down for Glory. It was supposed to be Deonna Purrazzo and Tasha Steelz against MK Ultra, and then they ended up airing it on Impact TV a couple of weeks later. So yeah, that's what had happened.
Yep. So anyway, it was good to see all these women on the show. At the very least, like I think MK Ultra deserved to at least be defending the titles on the show, and if they're going to lose the titles, it may as well be to Decay because the fans like Decay, and it's good to see Havoc and Rosemary back as Havoc and Rosemary. So I think for a 6-minute thing that came out of nowhere that wasn't even advertised, this was pretty darn good. So
just to piggyback off the sentiment that Rosemary and Havoc as Decay have been positioned as a very powerful tag team, they only tagged once. Each woman only entered that match one time, and the rest of it was just a squash match. So that's telling. I'm looking forward to Masha Slamovich and Killer Kelly either going their separate ways or going back after the Knockouts tag titles. As long as they're still functionally in each other's orbit, there's a lot there. As Cresta Starr once said, the best gay panic of 2023 in the Knockouts division.
Honestly, yes. Last year, the bisexual, we was up. We was up.
They still up. Don't worry about it. X Division Championship time. Chris Sabin defends against Hijo, the Vikingo, and KUSHIDA. This match was everything you expected it to be, every international flavor you expected it to be, and of course, had the exact effect you would expect it to have, in that Vikingo was not going to take the pin. Cresta Starr, what do you think of this matchup? Chris Sabin retains his X Division title.
Honestly, this match was 3 high flyers and 3 different high flying styles. And this was perfection. I was sports entertained. It had everything I liked. It had high flying. You had stiff moves. And literally Matthew Raywall on commentary was like, blink and you'll miss it. And he was not kidding. This match was fast and furious. I think it's about 7 minutes, but it felt like 3 because it was going so fast. I'm just going to tell y'all that the finisher was crazy. KUSHIDA having the hoverboard locked in, and for Chris Sabin to still hit the cradle shock.
Yeah.
Come on now. We had a Canadian destroyer on the ramp. We had a 450 splash on the ramp. Come on. This match was so good. Like, for TNA coming out, they came out hot. Like, I don't care if everyone got beef for former TNA, but me and this TNA are cool. So I want you guys to go and watch it. This match was so good. Did I tell you guys that this match was good? This match was so good. What did you think about it, Steven? What did you think?
This match was great. Like sorry, Joel, were you gonna say something?
The only thing I was going to say was that I personally, talking about that Canadian destroyer to the outside, I thought that was going to bring Vikingo back into the match before it ended. Instead, he just spent the rest of the time on the ramp until Sabin got the win. So, Jensen, go ahead. Give me your thoughts.
Well, they did put that over pretty big on commentary as like an ode to P.D. Williams. Like they mentioned, as like, so I think because in TNA, hopefully they'll at least protect that move. Like that used to be back in the day before social media and all this stuff, back on the old forums and the old websites, every single year for like a decade, finisher of the year was the Canadian Destroyer by P.D. Williams because it was mind blowing. Now you see it all the time, but like TNA should keep that move protected. And I think that was a good way of doing that by having that take Vikingo completely out. Another one of my favorite moves in that match, and it always blows my mind seeing because I've seen Vikingo do it before, but it's when he does the imploding Dragon Rana, like the inverted Dragon Rana off the top rope, like the front flip into the Rana. That's so impressive the way you can manipulate your body like that. The guy's unreal. So and this also another reason this match was like really important is because the identity of TNA very much revolves around the X division. And like that was back in the original TNA, back when AJ Styles first won that title, back when no one really knew AJ Styles really was, back when him and Jerry Lynn and Amazing Red and all these dudes were like changing the game completely. That was what made TNA different than WWE was the X division. And for TNA to rebrand and you're going to have your first big X division match, you needed to show out and show everybody like this is what the X division is all about. So I think it was really smart. And you had people from all over. You had KUSHIDA, who's a Japanese wrestler. You had Vikingo, who's a Mexican luchador. You had Chris Sabin, who's from the USA, from Detroit. Like 3 dudes, completely different backgrounds out there, killed it. And so like this is great. And all the psychology, there was a ton of different ways that they worked in the KUSHIDA worked in the hoverboard, like Cresta mentioned. And they also have the history, and the commentary did a good job of filling people in with that too. If they didn't know the background of KUSHIDA, Sabin, and Shelley, of course, and time machines and everything, and you saw them at the end of the night too and stuff. So like, I thought this was a great X Division title match, and it was good to see Chris Sabin retain. Also, I think he's like the right guy to be the X Division champion still.
I agree.
In a match that had total nonstop action, how about we give you total nonstop erections?
Hello. Do you have a limp penis?
Please play.
Hello. Do you have a limp penis? A difficulty getting it erect? Boy, do I have a product for you. BlueChew.com and the code FIGHTFUL will help fix that. Blue Chew has the same active ingredients as Viagra and Cialis, so you know they work. But they work a lot faster because it's a chewable. It's also much more affordable. Use that promo code FIGHTFUL. Get your first shipment free. Just pay $5 shipping. One of the best parts, it's discreet. No awkward in-person doctor's visits. You don't have to go to the pharmacy. It's shipped straight to your door when approved by an online physician. You want to check this out. It will help you. It is a good product. It will make your sex life better. BlueChew.com, the code FIGHTFUL.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Joe Pearl has decided to quit in the middle of the stream.
We lost Joel Pearl. This is where business really picked up. Also on the show, Cresta, we had that X Division title match. Now the show was good. This whole show was very good. It was a very, very enjoyable top to bottom. Well, as always, as we always talk about after these Impact and now TNA again pay-per-views. So it was a great show from top to bottom. But in my opinion, starting at that X Division title match is when like business really picked up for the rest of the night, because the rest of these matches were absolute bangers. Every single one of them, in my opinion. I guess we can move on without Joel. I'm sure he'll come back. Yeah, Joel is dealing with his hot spot in a hotel room right now. So
in
he's
Vegas,
on location in Vegas. So me and Cresta will do our best to keep y'all going. If you guys have any super chats or anything, actually, let me see if we got to catch up on any of those real quick, and now would be a good time to do that if we need to. We already got Kai's. There was another one here from, where did that go? From M.A. Solko. Thank you very much for the super chat. Says Sabin is the best in the world. Well, somebody here is happy as well that Chris Sabin retained the X Division Championship tonight, just like I am.
I don't hate it, honestly. I think that even when we were talking about the X Division for the women earlier in the X, woo, my brain said nope. But even in that X Division title match earlier, I think someone like Sabin is like the old X Division. Vikingo could be the future of it. And Kushida, even though he's mainly in New Japan now, he could still be considered your present X Division, because he could still mix it up with like a Kevin Knight or a Speedball, and you wouldn't blink an eye. Everyone just knows who Sabin is. Motor City Machine Guns, kind of like for a long time how AJ Styles was, is synonymous with TNA.
Yes, 100%. And Vikingo, I think the only reservation I think that TNA might have with Vikingo or some of these other guys that like we're big fans of is like some of them are going to be bouncing around, and I don't know how much they're going to be like only available for TNA. Like Vikingo, super busy, obviously, with his schedule and all the companies he's working for. But Vikingo, I think, just like you said, Cresta, personifies what the new X Division should definitely be all about.
Absolutely.
We also have another super chat from MA. Once again, thank you very much. Says Macklin found him. I'm guessing you're talking about Joel. Yes.
R.I.P.
Yes, I did get a message from Joel. He did mention that his internet is out, so we'll keep an eye on it. But if we need to, me and Cresta will finish up the review and answer all of y'all's questions. Just leave super chats. And Joel, I think, is trying to get back in right now, so we're seeing him backstage. So we're killing a little bit of time, letting Joel pop back in. I'm gonna add him in. I don't know if he's ready. Oh, sorry, maybe I shouldn't add him. Hey,
no,
Joel.
it's fine. I'm just on my phone now.
Okay.
I respect it.
Hey, we got through the X Division, we caught up on all the super chats. So if you want to go into Alexander versus Hammerstone, kind of lead into that at all, that's where we're at. You didn't really miss anything.
Yeah, so let's just get right into it. Alex Hammerstone makes his TNA debut, comes out, has a hell of a banger of a match with Josh Alexander. I can tell you that when we were announcing Jade Chung as the new TNA ring announcer on In the Weeds, she was very excited to announce her husband to the ring, and this was her first opportunity in TNA to do so. So she got a good front row seat to watch her husband and Alex Hammerstone have a banger of a match. And if you were there live, you saw a lot. It's just these two guys put it all in the ring. Cresta Starr, you saw it. I don't know how exposed you've been to Alex Hammerstone in the past, but what do you think of the match itself?
That is a big man. That is a large man. And Josh Alexander is a large man. I ain't never seen nobody manhandle Josh Alexander like that. I ain't never seen that. I ain't never seen that. That it is very rare, because to me in TNA, Josh Alexander is up there with Moose. That's your super heavyweight. Alex Hammerstone was tossing that man around like he was an X Division new guy, and this is BTI. That I've never seen that happen to Josh Alexander ever. Period. That was gnarly. That's a man, Maury. When we were joking and I had said Jake something versus Alex Hammerstone, yes. Now I need that in my. That's meat. That is Arby's right there. This was a good match. Again, I have never seen anyone manhandle Josh Alexander. And either Josh Alexander was selling or Alex Hammerstone is just that guy. Because I believed it. The ankle locks to tearing up old boy's leg to make it where Alex Hammerstone couldn't throw him around. But conversely, you were trying to mess up Josh Alexander's arm. This was a really good match. I was not expecting the match to go like this. Yes, Josh Alexander won, but like barely. And again, I've never seen Josh Alexander be in a situation where he's the guy in peril. Yeah, I've seen him get beat up, but I've never seen him like literally be like, hey, stop throwing me around like that. I weigh 200 pounds too. Wait a minute. This was a good match. This was a really good match. This was peak showcase of TNA's heavyweight division. And again, Jake something versus Alex Hammerstone. Yes, please. Now book it. Cowards. Yes.
I like the idea of that matchup a lot. That'd be a fun one. And Hammerstone looked really good here. Like I'm very familiar with his work in MLW. I cover MLW over the weekender for anyone who wants to check that out on Fightful Select. So Hammerstone was like really a backbone of that company for the last handful of years, whether being like the world champion, the openweight champion. Really meant, I mean, him and Jacob Fatu really, I think, were like the two main guys that have really been helping carry that brand long term for them. And for him to leave MLW is pretty big to go out to like kind of the open waters here and seeing where he's going to fit in. And I think TNA is a really good place for him. I think he could do really well here. This match was in my opinion, this was the best match of the night. I think Hammerstone and Alexander get match of the night for me. These guys killed it. There was multiple times. I mean, Hammerstone hit his Nightmare Pendulum, which is his finisher that like rarely anyone kicks out of that thing. He had a nice TKO. They were hitting moves on the outside onto the apron and stuff. Like they beat the hell out of each other. There was like, even moves that aren't finishing moves for these guys, I was still like, this might be it. They just beat the hell out of each other so bad. Like at one point, Hammerstone, I think, hit just like a sit-out powerbomb on Alexander. And I was like, you might just keep him down for 3 at this point. Like he hit a TKO. Like I said, I was like, that's not his finisher, but like, this might be it. Like these guys are doing a great job making me believe this could be it. Every time that ankle lock was locked in, I thought Alexander could have it. And then Alexander winning with the C4 spike is like, you expect Alexander to win because he's who he is in TNA. Like he should be one of the top people still. And Hammerstone is just now coming in, but what a great way for Hammerstone to come into TNA. I thought this was, like I said, the best match of the night. And I think both guys came out looking amazing after this one.
Crowd was very hot for it in Vegas at this live show. I will add that Hammerstone coming in is a big opportunity for him. And also adding to your point, Steven Jensen, the idea that anything could have put down Josh Alexander is perfect for a guy who's coming in with not a lot of fanfare, but looking like a star. He could have put him down with anything, and nobody knows, or at least most people in the crowd had no idea what Hammerstone's actual finishing move is, and he just used a bunch of finishers and said, it could be this one, could be this one, could be this one. It was good psychology for that match. You didn't know where it was going to end, and then you got Alexander hitting that C4 spike. Josh Alexander has a massive match tomorrow night at the Snake Eyes tapings against Will Ospreay. He needed this win tonight to basically get himself to the Ospreay match, and I think, quite honestly, that this is going to be a match that Alexander wins tomorrow night at Snake Eyes. I think Ospreay is going to actually drop the ball, and we'll set up a third down the road. That's just me. But in terms of tonight and in terms of this match with Hammerstone, it told the perfect story. Josh Alexander needing momentum, Hammerstone needing to prove his point, and I think both men did a great job of that. I don't know if you have anything to add, Cresta or Steven Jensen.
No, these guys should both be. I mean, I'm hoping Hammerstone lands, excuse me, wherever he wants to, and like I know there's going to be plenty of places that are interested. And I also just want to say this is a little off topic, but just to his credit and to MLW's credit in this scenario, Hammerstone publicly wanted out of the company towards the end of his contract. He made it known, the company made it known that they knew, and they figured it out to like get him back on TV for a little bit. The WTF stable was doing really well right now, in my opinion. He was a part of that. And it was a really good example of like both sides like figuring things out, and like Hammerstone finished out his contract the right way. The company didn't have to like fight him over staying or like, I think it was a pretty good example. Like I think that Hammerstone I don't know. I just think the whole thing was a good look. Like, I think Hammerstone's going into this free agency period, like, looking really good in a lot of ways. And I think it looks like he does business the right way. He looks like $1 million, like Cresta said. Even if you're not familiar with the guy, you see him. Another thing that I'll mention, this is a joke, but people who know. Hammerstone's like all these years too late. If Hammerstone was around TNA when the Hulkster showed up, and he could have done a Bissamania, but with Hammerstone instead, like that would have been his guy. Like Hulk Hogan would have pushed Hammerstone to the moon in TNA. So it's just one of those things where like you see him Hulk up and you see him do the Ultimate Warrior shake and stuff. He has so much of like that WWF in him that like I think he'd be great. Yeah, I think he'd be great in that system too. Honestly, it's a totally different path. You might wind up, in NXT for a while or Orlando for a while, and like there's just a different type of climb in TNA. If he signed something with them and they're going to push him, he could become a top guy like immediately with TNA. And I think he proved that tonight. So
he's somebody I could absolutely. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No,
I was going to say that he's somebody I could absolutely see being a surprise entrant and just squashing Shelley. And you'd be like, yo, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And it'd be like, wow, that's crazy. But look at him. Look at this guy. Like, I mean, Shelley not champion no more. But even if he squashed Moose, you'd be like, oh, Moose is a big guy. You squashed Moose?
Yeah.
Yikes.
Well, and they left it to where like people would want to see a rematch. Like Hammerstone could beat Alexander later down the road, and it'd be a big deal in a match a lot of people want to see. And also to your point, Cresta, like I want to say it was probably like a year or so ago. I remember Joe Hendry and Moose had a really good match. I think Hendry won as well. And I remember thinking back then, like they weren't doing enough with him. So they have like a surprising amount of like really large dudes who can wrestle on their roster. Like it's kind of, when large you really look nimble. At it. Yeah. Like it's kind of a unique position for them to be in because they're so well known for being like the X Division company, kind of like a lot of the smaller wrestlers and stuff, but they have a lot of really good big guys on the roster right now.
Yeah, TNA has a lot of like secret division. They do have a secret meat division. Their women's division is carrying the standard for like women in NA, in my opinion. And like the X division it's known, but it's still slept on. And even like the regular dudes, they could fit anywhere. Your X division could really have an abyss, and everyone be like, okay, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
Before we move on, I'm just going to point out Scott Fishman over on Twitter had mentioned that Alex Hammerstone came in so tan, you think that he was about to beat Sting at Starrcade, and I thought that was perfect.
That's inside baseball for sure. That tan cost.
I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the tag team championship 4-way match. This match was a lot of fun. It was chaotic. You had the debut of Grizzled Young Veterans in TNA, along with what I'm calling Speedy Laredo, Laredo Kid and Speedball Mike Bailey. And then you had ABC, the tag team champions, and Rascalz. This match, was all over the place before I probably inevitably cut out Cresta Starr. What do you think of this 4-way calamity and the tag team champions that remain the same in ABC?
I will agree with you when you said this is calamity. It was hard to take notes for this match because everywhere you looked, there was a tag, there was a spot. I personally am a ABC fan. I am truly the embodiment of when Chris Bay said, the ultimate finesse of your girl's favorite wrestler, because I am your girl. That's my favorite wrestler. These two are so good together and they complement one another. I used to not be as high on Ace Austin as I was until they put him with Chris Bay, and these two just go for it. I like everyone in this. Everyone. Grizzled Young Veterans, the second time I had the pleasure of seeing them wrestle, amazing. Speedball Mike Bailey is so good that you could put him with a ketchup bottle and he would still be the most best tag partner you've ever had. He's so good. This match was amazing. I think ABC winning was the right call. Surprising them pinning the Rascalz, especially Miguel. I think that should be a nice pin in the Rascalz ABC, and ABC and the Rascalz should both move on. Just for a little bit. I think the Rascalz should eventually have the tag titles, but for right now, since you got pinned, let's move on and let's go do other things. I think that the tag division on the men and the women in TNA could use a little sprucing. So just some exhibition matches, especially at the beginning of the year, might not be too bad. It sucks that Trent Seven couldn't make it because of travel issues, but I thought that when they had also said that Trent Seven wasn't the only one who couldn't make it, that's why the Masha Slamovich, I mean the MK Ultra Decay match was put on the show. So that was just my 2 cents on it. This match was great. Double drop kick from Laredo Kid on Grizzled Young Veterans, who got beat up a lot of this match. Shout out to James Drake. You took a beating, sir. But you looked great.
Yes.
Jensen,
I'll agree. You know, I'm a fan of everyone in this match. You know, I've talked for years about Ace Austin and Chris Bay, and I like seeing that they're basically anything I've complained about up to this point, like they're getting now. Like even though they aren't the world champions of the company, they're a credible tag team. They're a real tag team, like in their presentation. And so I really like what they're doing with Ace Austin and Chris Bay. I'm a longtime fan of the Rascalz. Like I've always loved Miguel and Wentz and Dez and all those guys and Myron Reed, the fourth Rascal. That dude is killing it. He had a great match with Leo Rush tonight on GCW. But always been a fan of those guys. It was cool seeing Laredo Kid fill in, like good replacement. It would have been nice to see Trent Seven, but I mean, what are you going to do? If you can't make the show, you got a good replacement. Grizzled Young Veterans, it's good seeing them starting to pop up outside the WWE system because they've always had a lot of talent, and they publicly wanted out for like a while, right? They were like so it's good to see they're, you know, like now you got a chance to like prove it, you know, this is good for them. They can bet on themselves, and they're starting to pop up other places. And the one thing I'm going to say, okay, and this is the only negative thing I'm going to say, Speedball Mike Bailey, one of my favorite wrestlers in the world. I love this guy. If you listen to the Weekender podcast, I talk about him pretty much every weekend and have for years. All right. I watch this guy in every company. I think I even rated him. I think I called him like the best wrestler of the year overall, like within like the last year or two on like one of my awards that I had done, like, cause he's just consistently everywhere he wrestles. I love Speedball Mike Bailey. This is for the powers that be in TNA management, who I know pay attention to these shows. You need to change the presentation. His entrance, you should feel like a party. It should, when he walks out, there's not enough of a pop. This dude should be treated like you're like, when he's out on the indie scene and Brass Monkey hits, the place erupts. The second he comes out and he does this, it is a party. He's out there. He's hitting people's hands. He's dancing to the music. He's bouncing around. He looks like a dude in like a Sega Genesis, like fighting game. You know, it's like ready for his fight to start. And the fans are like, they're into it. And Speedball in the ring is always going to be Speedball in the ring. He gets in the ring in TNA. He shows out every single time, and the fans go nuts for his actual matches. But it bothers me when I see him come out and for his entrance in TNA. I know this is nitpicking, but I'm just a really big fan of this guy. And it's just like, it's a slow entrance. It's like this slow kind of boring music. And he walks out slow and he kind of hits a couple people on the way in. But like when Speedball comes out, people should be like, you should be hyped up because what the stuff he does in the ring is so high energy and his moveset is so unique. And he's so unique that like, I just feel like that's the one thing they're missing in TNA with his presentation. His entrance should be more like a party than anything else. So that's my 2 cents on Speedball, because I'm a massive fan of his.
I think it's a very good point, and something that I've wondered with Speedball for a while. Cresta and I have talked about the presentation of Speedball Mike Bailey in Impact, and Speedball himself is, you know, he's happy where he is. He's said it at least publicly on his socials. But I think a lot of people would love to see more character development out of Speedball in TNA. And now's the opportunity in 2024 for them to do it. I think it's a really good point. Again, I apologize if I'm cutting in and out. This is just what
You're
I'm
good.
stuck with.
We can hear you.
If good for now. If someone can pop up super chats, that would be fantastic.
Yes, I can do that. Give me just 1 second. I think we're a couple behind. I'll just make sure. So Macklin found him. I think we already hit that with MA. He was keeping up with the trials and tribulations of Joel getting back onto the stream. The next one we have is Bobby the Brain Heenan with a super chat. Thank you very much. Says, I know TNA is losing some talent, but if they can lock up Hammerstone, Zaya, Grizzled Young Vets, Dana, and Nemeth, that is a hell of a reload by them. Yeah, what do you guys think about that? I agree. That's a lot of good signings right there.
I want to give Dana Brooke a
Cresta.
chance. That's what I definitely want to do. I think that it's easy to dogpile on people who may not have had a good exit, or like like what Sean was saying earlier in the show, that this is someone who's worked really hard and didn't get a chance to show that they worked really hard. And I have learned from seeing AEW and Impact that just because someone can't wrestle in WWE does not mean that they cannot wrestle. That does not mean anything. That just means in the WWE system, it just doesn't work for them. So I'm willing to give Peace a chance. I'm willing to give Peace a chance. I think that if she can wrestle the way that people say that she can wrestle, like I've seen clips of even Eva Marie mixing it up, but that's not what we saw on the Fed. So I'm going to give Peace a chance. Nemeth, absolutely. Hammerstone, again, I never seen Josh Alexander get tossed around like he was 10 pounds. I think this would be a great reload, even if they have people floating in and out. I would love to see Ash by Elegance. Is it Excellence or Elegance? Because Ray Walt was messing it up, and now
he did mess it up on commentary a few times. To be fair, it did start getting confusing. I think it's Elegance.
It is Elegance, not Excellence. Yeah, Elegance.
Yeah.
So if she can back it up, I could see her and Gisele Shaw. That's a pre-built-in feud. You look like $1,000,000. You're the spotlight. I did see that you have George Iceman. Okay, Iceman, I see you. You're no longer Scoops. But I will say, I want to see the presentation first, because looking at it, it gives me shades of Toni Storm, and that's my only complaint. I believe that you are unique. It's just giving me... But Toni Storm's is Frankie Monet. But, that's a conspiracy theory. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she's old school movie star. I think that what you're getting out of Ash, what is it? Ash the Elegance? Oh my gosh.
Ash by Elegance?
What you're getting
Ash
out
by
of
Elegance.
Is it acting up?
No,
you're
good.
fine. You're fine. We're just trying to figure out the name. Oh, it's you. Then
Joel.
it's you. No,
it's
Joel.
Okay. That's okay. We got it. If Joel's got it, if you got to reconnect, all right, we got this.
Hi, Joel.
But I will also say, we'll talk about the TNA Knockouts World Title match here in just a moment, but it ties in with the Ash news that we're talking about right here.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's also interesting. Just a little bit of note. For one, I agree that I did get some Toni Storm vibes from that. I did think about Toni Storm when I saw her, so I'm with you there.
It's just the presentation. It doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to do an old Hollywood, an old gimmick. But even Toni Storm's gimmick was kind of what they were doing Frankie Monet in NXT, just not the old Hollywood. It's that presentation of, oh, I'm so rich, I don't even want to be here, mother, darling. I get it. It's nothing wrong with it. It's great. And Toni Storm is tearing it up. Again, I just want to err on that side of, you are different, I believe, because I also know how Impact gives it up. Looks are always deceiving in TNA. So,
yes. Now, I do think with the presentation, we'll see where it goes with the new gimmick. But I remember when Dana Brooke first appeared in NXT years ago, when she was scouted by Triple H. I believe it was at the Arnold Classic. They used to go out and like try to just find athletes, like, collegiate athletes, and they still do that, of course, football players and stuff. But I believe they found her at the Arnold Classic, and it's just kind of, I'm just interested. It's just kind of in the back of my mind, because Dana Brooke has that background in Jordynne Grace, we're going to talk about here in a second, and there's clearly going to be something between those two brewing here. Jordynne, very well known, like current day, like she does a lot of bodybuilding. She's kind of like in that world too. So it's kind of, I don't know if they can kind of maybe tie that in together. I don't know how much Ash's new gimmick is going to be about, like her bodybuilding or like Arnold Classic Pass or anything like that. But I think they might kind of have some similar backgrounds that people might not really know about. Might be kind of cool to explore that. And then also we got another super chat from MA. Says, who should Grizzled Young Vets feud with first? Who do you think they should feud with first, Crest? They got a lot of good tag teams in TNA.
I mean, but that goes back to what I was saying. There are good tag teams in TNA. I just can tell you like 3 of them. And that's a problem that I think that the men and women both have. It's good to have the Grizzled Young Vets in there, but besides the Grizzled Young Vets, there's Rhino and Heath, ABC, Good Hands. Who else is in this match? Look at your notes, sweetie. Look at your notes. Rascalz. And that's 5.
Yeah, 5 good teams right there.
But
those are all good options.
Oh, Kenny King and Sheldon, but they're not really a tag team. It's more like I'm leaving you, Sheldon Jean, if it gets too hot.
Did you mention Motor City Machine Guns?
I didn't, but I'm not gonna hold you. They've been so single stars. I forgot that they were a tag team, and that's been like for the past like 6-7 months.
Yes, but they've always got that option, which is great. They can
true.
They can always do something there. I'm interested now with Shelley losing. Well, we'll talk about that. Don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. No, not really a spoiler alert. I think people watching the show
we all saw it.
Yeah, we all saw the show. We had one more super chat from Kai, and then we'll move on to the next match. We may have lost Joel for the night. I don't know. We'll keep our eyes on that. But Joel doing his best on location in Las Vegas at the event in the hotel room, working off his Wi-Fi card. We got Kai with super chat. Thank you again, Kai. Says Ash and Jordan in different strong women events with like the thinking emoji. See, yeah, and there were some other people in the chat that were saying it was the Arnold Classic. Thank you, Sam, for giving me the confirmation on that. I knew it was something like that. Devin Cox with another super chat. Thank you very much, Devin. Says willing to give Dana Brooke a chance, but Ash by Elegance sucks as a name, as evidenced by y'all having a hard time remembering it. That is true. I had a hard time remembering it. I think Cresta may have as well. I think Sean did at the beginning of the show. Tom Hannafin had a hard time with it on commentary. I think Ray Walt did too. So
it was Ray Walt who had a hard time with it. Hannafin kept trying to correct it, and Ray Walt said, thanks. I'm going to say the wrong thing again.
Okay, to be fair, thank you for correcting me on that. I want to give credit where it's due. Okay, so Ray Walt is who is to blame.
Yes.
But yeah, it's an uphill battle with that name, and we'll see. This is a super chat, or not super chat, but a message from Joel. So we will carry on. We only got 2 more matches, and we will finish up for you guys. But me and Cresta, if you guys have any more super chats, let us know. We'll address them. And with the next match we had ties in with everything we've already been talking about with Ash by Elegance. She is in the crowd watching this TNA Knockouts World Title match. Jordynne Grace defeats Trinity to become the new Knockouts champion. Jordynne Grace used her call your shot gauntlet win, which my one complaint, we talked about it last time on the pay-per-view that she wanted on our post show. I mentioned my one gripe with this was that she called out the women's championship, because I was like, you won a championship shot at any title in this company. You pinned Bully Ray at the end of this match for this thing. Go for the world title. Like, you've been the knockout champion multiple times. Go be the world champion, Jordynne. Like, personally speaking, I would have been totally fine with Jordynne ending tonight with that world title. But we'll get to the main event here in a second. Just hold on just a second. Sorry, I'm getting thrown off by this. Also check our sponsor, Blue Chew. Please, we did play the video early.
The video
we already got that out there for you guys. So shout out Blue Chew. But anyway, my whole point, I guess, is my one gripe was that I was hoping Jordynne Grace would deal for the world title, because this is a company that will do men versus women. Like it's all like, this would have been the company to do that. But that said, this was a great match. Jordynne Grace beating Trinity, and also that we know Trinity is heading back off to the WWE, as Sean confirmed at the beginning of the show. That's, where do you think, Cresta? Was this a good send-off for Trinity, and how do you feel about Jordynne Grace being the champion again?
So, at first, I felt the way you did with the call your shot. Like, why did you go after the men's title? After sleeping on it, thinking about it, doing the show for some weeks, I think that Jordynne Grace calling out the world's title is saying that this is the most important title in this company. And I know I could go for the men's title, but the women's title is way more prestigious, way more in the forefront than the men's title. So I will say I could understand that. That I will be like, okay, that one I get. This match too, Trinity has been very well protected in this company. And Jordynne Grace was throwing this girl around for free. Like I never seen Macklin get manhandled. I rarely ever seen Trinity get manhandled in this ring. And Trinity got manhandled. She bumped, she tossed around, and I liked Trinity's run. I was just surprised. Nothing is wrong with Jordynne Grace winning. Like, I gotta say, there's nothing wrong with Jordynne Grace winning here. I just wonder now, what do we do with Jordynne Grace? I would love to see Jordynne Grace dominate. And to me, it does make sense to put it on Jordynne Grace to be the face of TNA because she's earned that. Her and Deonna are two people that if Deonna didn't leave, absolutely you earned that. You deserve that. So I understand. I personally don't want Trinity to go back to WWE. And that's just because I have loved and dug her presentation here on Impact. Seeing her win matches by submission, seeing her actual wrestle matches, promos, I have loved Trinity just being Trinity here. And I worry and I fear that when she goes back to WWE, the only time I'm going to see her doing anything is during a Royal Rumble spot when she's doing the Kofi Kingston. I really like that she's betting on herself, and it is no shade to the women in the Federation, but I don't want her to get lost in the shuffle or in the Charlotte Flair vortex or in the Bianca vortex, or what are we doing with Jade? I want her to get her money, make your money, honey, get your bag. But her presentation here has been impeccable. It's been superb, and it's protected the crap out of her. So I would like to see her try to get her run back. If she is going back to the Fed, I wish her nothing but success. But her presentation and Impact, I would love to see her go to AEW. I'll tell you that. But the same problems with WWE is my same problems with AEW. I don't want you to get lost in the shuffle or lose to a returning Britt Baker or get your thing derailed to a Saraya. You know what I mean? And that's no shade against those women. But again, Trinity's presentation in Impact TNA has been superb. This was a great match. I'm looking forward to Jordynne Grace being the standard bearer because we know she's going to carry that. That's going to be so great. And maybe Gisele Shaw will get her lick back off of Jordynne Grace, and Gisele Shaw might take it off her, and that would be truly something, and I would love to see that.
There you go. And there's definitely going to be reservations and concerns from the fan base about anyone going back to the WWE, like for sure. I definitely get that. Now with Trinity, maybe she's got a bright upside there with like maybe you can work her into the bloodline because she does have like the relationship there. Like if she gets a big spot involved with that, I can understand wanting to be a part of that heading into like WrestleMania season and stuff. That's pretty huge. But that all said, I totally understand everything. I mean, she had a great run in TNA. She didn't lose really. I think
it had
been 8 months and no losses. So, and then I agree with you too. Like I agree that the TNA Knockouts division is really what has kept TNA / Impact like as great as it's been in recent years for sure. Like they have the best. One of, if not the best, just women's rosters in all of wrestling. I definitely agree with that. My only reservation about that was just strictly that Jordynne has already won this title a couple of times. It was just like, it would be cool to see her. And they also have, people can debate about this all they want. I know people feel certain ways about all this, but at the end of the day, they have a chance to rewrite their history a little bit because the whole Tessa Blanchard thing was a mess at the end of the day. And like, you could get Jordynne kind of in that spot in a lot of ways, in my opinion.
Jordynne or Deonna, but she's not here anymore.
Well, and that was bizarre seeing Deonna on AEW TV while a TNA show was happening. She was on Collision. Right? I was like, this is bizarro world seeing her on the other screen. But no, so we'll see where all this goes, and it looks pretty heavily implied we'll get Jordynne Grace and Ash by Elegance, and we also have Gisele Shaw waiting now after winning this Ultimate X match. She's getting a shot at the Knockouts title. That all gets us to our main event, everyone. If you have any last minute super chats or anything, send them. We'll make sure to answer your questions, read your statements out. We'll put it on the screen and everything for y'all before we get out of here. But main event, we had Moose defeating Alex Shelley to become the new TNA World Champion. This match went a little over 20 minutes long. Hard-hitting match. Really good stuff, I think, from both guys. Moose had cash in his feast or fired, which is very similar to the Call Your Shot. Both of the main event and the co-main, kind of similar how both of them, and they both won their opportunities at the last pay-per-view and immediately said, at Hard to Kill, we're going to use these. So we knew going into this, and they kind of had to do that because they kind of like taped everything between then and now. So, but that all said, Cresta, how do you feel about this match and about Moose becoming the new TNA champion going into this new era of TNA?
I'm going to pull up this super chat because I feel like this, I don't personally feel this way, but I have seen this complaint. Moose winning has genuinely killed my interest in TNA. This is from Dan V. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, thank you.
He was an ice cold challenger who needed help beating up Rhino. How don't you do Shelley Sabin for the title just to jump into setting up Moose and Nemeth? Now, I will say this, after covering this is coming up now on 3 years. Thank you, Fifo. Thank you guys for watching this with us and with me. I will say this was a very TNA Impact thing to do. This was a very TNA. This is a very TNA thing to do. Now, I don't necessarily hate it. I would have liked Shelley to be TNA champion, and him versus Nemeth would have been, that sounds delicious, actually. Sounds like filet mignon. It sounds with garlic butter. It sounds delicious. However, that's not what we got. We got someone who was terrorizing TNA, someone who was terrorizing Impact, someone who literally worked for Impact, found the TNA title in the garbage, said I'm the champion, and people are like, where did you find that? You're not, this is Impact, my guy. And now commentary saying that who knew that he would have had the foresight, I don't hate it. I don't hate it because anyone who beats Moose now, we're gonna be like, okay, that's fair, it's Moose. You know what I mean? Like, if you beat Alex Shelley, like, well, he could have been the face of Impact. You want Motor City Machine Guns to win. Moose has established himself as being such a piece of crap that, Moose loses, I don't care. You're a piece of crap, Moose. Like Bully Ray. That being said, let me talk about the actual match. Moose kind of deserved to win that. Did you hear the chest chops he was giving Shelley?
He had a headbutt. That was the nicest headbutt. I don't know how he made the sound that he made, but it was the nicest headbutt I've ever heard. It was towards the end of that match. It was great.
Bro, he slapped this man's chest like in the middle towards the end too. It sounded like a drum, a hollow drum. I was like, yo, oh my God, Moose. There was a time that I really thought that when Shelley hit the shell shock and then Moose kicked out of it and they were both down, I thought that right then and there, Alex Shelley was going to win. Quite surprised that Moose picked up the win. I don't hate it. It's not as offensive as some people may think. Nick Nemeth coming in right afterwards. I personally, again, I would have liked Shelley versus Nemeth. Not hating it. But again, if Moose loses or when Moose loses, we're not going to feel bad about it. If Moose wants to be a terrorist and hold on to that belt for 2 or 3 defenses, I'm still not going to be mad about it because this is a peak TNA thing to do. This is peak TNA.
Yeah, so like I agree in a lot of ways with what you're saying. And for me, I think Moose was, it's hard to explain this. I would say probably like during the pandemic was right around the time Moose was like at his best to be the face of TNA. Like around the time that he was feuding with Kenny Omega. Like if they would have put him over Omega, I'm not saying they necessarily should have, but if he would have just beat Omega clean, for instance, like during the pandemic when Omega was the TNA champion or the Impact champ. Well, actually he was both. He held both the titles. That was kind of the right time, I feel like, for Moose. Now, that said, this whole thing with this new system group, you can tell that they've got plans for this and Moose being the champion. And now with Myers and Edwards getting the win on the pre-show, at the very least, Myers and Edwards had matching gear and stuff. They seem like a real tag team now, so you kind of have your tag team with Myers and Edwards. You have Alisha there, like the women's division stuff. You have Moose as the world champion. So I can see what they're kind of doing here. But that said, I would also completely agree that I would personally rather see Nick Nemeth versus Alex Shelley. Like, I think but Moose can go in the ring. Like, I got to give him more credit than a lot of people probably do. Like, he's not the best wrestler I've seen in my life, but he's not bad. He's not bad.
Yeah, no, he's not bad by any means. Yeah. It's just that his character's a piece of crap.
Right. No, I understand. No, I'm not saying you were saying that either. I'm just saying, like, I know he's not for everyone. There's a lot of people that don't like him for a lot of reasons and stuff. But I think on screen he looks very believable. He looks like he can kick your ass. He's obviously he's well put together, professional athlete. And I remember him even back in Ring of Honor years ago. Like he showed a lot of potential. Like he could jump higher than everyone. Like he could run super fast. He was super athletic. He just needed to kind of figure out the pro wrestling part of it. And I think ironically enough, it was like around the time I think it was like he was feuding with EC3 and they did this whole like, your whole narrative thing. But around that time, I remember Moose's character work actually getting a lot better. And I remember thinking years back, this guy really could be the face of this company if he stayed. And the other thing with him is he keeps re-signing. And that's another reason I think he got this title is like, now I don't know what his options are outside of outside of TNA. I have no idea if he hit the free agent market, what it would look like for him. I really don't. But he does continually sign contracts with TNA to stay. So if he's going to be there and they can rely on him to be there, I can understand why they would want him to be their champion too if they got plans. So, and then the Nick Nemeth thing is obviously that's the big news of the night. We talked about it a little bit at the top. Do you have any more you want to talk about with that Cresta? Because I think even though Shelley would be a better option in ring, I think that it will be a really good match between Moose and Nemeth when we get it.
No, I agree with that. I don't think Moose is a bad person to have the face of your company. Like you said, he keeps resigning. He is such a good heel. He is one of those heels that's like, wow, I hate you. I really want you to lose, but he's really good in the ring. So he's not just going to, he's not what I like to call, he's not going to JBL it and get counted out and walk up the ring. He's going to beat you up. He's going to laugh. He's going to harass you, harass your family, maybe even burn down your house. You know what I mean? Like, hey, he's like the Randy Orton of Impact TNA. Like, he'll do that. He is a piece of crap, but he's really good in the ring. So I could see it. I could even see him beating Nick Nemeth and have it being like they did with Nick Aldis. No shade. Nick Aldis talked all that good stuff and got beat by Alex Shelley and get the hell on out of here.
Oh man, I will say, and we touched on this at the beginning of the show as well. And this is not a super chat. I'll put it on the screen though. The Nemeth debut was hype as hell, and
yes.
that is facts for sure. Like I mentioned it. I think the loudest that place was, the most hype that place was all night was the end of that show. When that camera cut off with that TNA logo at the very end of that show, and everyone, that's the last thing you saw. The last thing you see and hear is a crowd going nuts, and Nemeth in a TNA shirt in the crowd, and he's yelling, "Get up! This is TNA!" Like he's excited to be there. You can tell. Like Sean said at the top of the show, and like his own brother has said in interviews, this is something that he's probably been considering for years, this opportunity to do something outside the WWE. We've already seen him dipping his toes in New Japan. He's going to be popping up other places, I'm sure. But, good to see Nemeth, and it parallels a lot to Cody. Like Cody kind of set this blueprint in a lot of ways, and other people have done this before and after Cody, but I think Cody's a great example of it, because he did this in New Japan, he did this in Impact, he did it on the indie scene, and by the time, and then they created AEW, and now look where Cody's at in the WWE, hopefully finishing the story and winning the championship over Roman Reigns at WrestleMania 40. But that's a whole other conversation.
That's a whole nother angry conversation between wrestling nerds.
Yes, Cresta, we'll get out of here. Let people know where to find you, unless you have anything else you'd like to add before that.
No, I'm excited. I do agree. This was an amazing visual, a great way to end the night. I'm excited for TNA going forward. Like I said, I wasn't watching where everyone has these connections to AJ Styles, Frankie Kazarian, the Fallen Angel, Christopher Daniels. I don't have those connections, but if this is what it was back then, I'm already interested. I already am looking forward to it. Maybe we can do a summoning circle and maybe we'll get Mr. AJ Styles, because if you keep saying his name enough, he might show up. We got a cameo from him, so
we did.
I'll take what I can get.
Yes, I'm holding out hope for that. I want AJ really badly, even just to say what's up. Just say hi to the TNA universe one time. I know he did the cameo, like you said, but if he showed up in the arena ever just one time, just in the crowd to just wave, it would mean so much for that brand just to have happen.
Oh yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, you can find me every Wednesday until further notice on my personal streaming channels, twitch.tv/CrestaStar or TikTok.com/@CrestaStar. We watch AEW Dynamite Thursdays, you can catch me here on Fightful. Myself and disconnected Joel Pearl. We go over all things on Impact, well, TNA now. Saturdays, typically, you can catch me over on Collision with Riccicino and Iridian. We go over all the Collision hype stuff. I think they're still doing Battle of the Belts, or they're probably done. We ran really late this time. And you can catch me doing the post-TNA stuff. It's me and Joel Pearl most of the time, and we're graced by Steven Jensen 4 times a year. Ladies and gentlemen, if that was a lot, you can catch me on X, Cresta the Starr, like Megan the Stallion. There's a link tree in my bio. Click the link. Everything's there. Steven Jensen, where can they find you?
Yeah, thank you. I always get it backwards also, all these things. You can find me on X at @FightTalk_. You can use my code FightTalk on independentwrestling.tv. Listen to the Fightful Select Weekender podcast. It's usually every Sunday, sometimes Mondays. I probably won't record it tomorrow because I got a lot to catch up on because there's so much wrestling to cover tonight that I got to catch up on. And I am off work on my shoot job for MLK on Monday. So I will probably record that for you guys on Monday. So Fightful Weekender probably coming this Monday instead of Sunday, but it's usually on Sundays for you guys. Also, every Thursday live on this channel, youtube.com/Fightful. Every Thursday morning, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. Myself and Jeremy Lambert are here talking everything. We talk AEW, WWE, Indies, everything. We always have interviews for y'all with wrestlers or promoters or other fans and stuff. So join us for the spotlight on Fightful. We appreciate y'all. And that's everything that I got. Cresta, anything left from you?
Ladies and gentlemen, be nice to each other, or else me and Steven Jensen will come and rip out your eyebrows in your sleep.
And on that note, this was TNA Hard to Kill.